Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Timon of Athens, and we get to hear from Timon again today, surprise, surprise, in Act 4, Scene 3. I promise this scene is so long and there's so many monologues in it, but it is kind of an interesting scene because Timon has gone from being the most optimistic person in the world to the most pessimistic person in the world, and where we are at the scene, Apomantus has come and sought him out because Apomantus doesn't like the competition for being the most miserable and pessimistic and cynical person in the world. So Timon, remember, he's living in the forest. He did some digging to try to find food, but he found gold instead, and he gave some of it to Alcibiades and a couple of women, hoping that they would go and spread venereal disease, but we don't know whether or not those women actually have venereal disease. It could have just been Timon being rude. But then Apomantus showed up and was like, I heard that you're out here, like, pretending to be me. What's that all about? And Timon is being very rude to him. And Apomantus in his monologue yesterday was like, don't try to be me. I invented being me. This is not you. And you can't pull off being me better than I can pull off being me. So Timon, of course, doesn't like that very much and continues being rude to Apomantus. And finally he's like, why are you even out here? Why did you come looking for me? Just to irritate me? And Apomantus is like, yeah, pretty much. And Timon's like, well, are you successful? Do you feel like you're being successful at this? You know, you're being a fool and a knave and you're here to irritate me? And Apomantus is like, you're not doing this because you have to, you're doing this because you want to. Like, there's a difference between being forced into a miserable position in life and choosing to put yourself in a miserable position. Like, you don't have to be doing this, and given a choice, you wouldn't be doing this. You would rather be back in Athens with everybody, with lots of money, with lots of friends, all that kind of thing. He's like, if you were really so miserable, you would wish to be dead. You should be wishing to be dead if you're that miserable. And Timon says, not by his breath that is more miserable. Thou art a slave, whom fortune's tender arm with favor never clasped, but bred a dog. Hadst thou, like us, from our first swath proceeded, the sweet degrees that this brief world affords, to such as may the passive drugs of it freely commenced, thou wouldst have plunged thyself in general riot, melted down thy youth in different beds of lust, and never learned the icy precepts of respect, but followed the sugared game before thee. But myself, who had the world as my confectionery, the mouths, the tongues, the eyes, and hearts of men at duty, more than I could frame employment, that numberless upon me stuck as leaves do on the oak, have with one winter's brush fell from their boughs and left me open, bare, for every storm that blows. I, to bear this, that never knew but better, is some burden. Thy nature did commence in sufferance. Time hath made thee hard in it. Why should you hate men? They never flattered thee. What hast thou given? If thou wilt curse, thy father, that poor rag, must be thy subject, who in spite put stuff to some she-beggar and compounded thee, poor rogue, hereditary. Hence, be gone. If thou hadst not been born the worst of men, thou hadst been a knave and flatterer. So Timon is getting a little bit into nature versus nurture here. He's sort of the opinion of like, how dare you tell me what I'm allowed to be and what I'm allowed to feel at this particular point in my life? Because the point that he's making is that Apomantus has always been poor and miserable and never had friends and wasn't able to give anything to anybody and all these sorts of things. He was just raised in poor circumstances, has always been miserable. So to lose friends or to lose money doesn't really mean much to Apomantus. And had Apemantus been born into a wealthy family and been given all of the advantages that someone like Timon had, Apemantus would have taken advantage of all of that too. And he probably would have been a kinder person to the people around him, and he would have played the games of society and all those sorts of things. So he's like, for me, Timon, who always had all of those things and had all of these people depending on me and coming to me for things and trusting me and needing me, for all of that to be gone like that hurts. So I'm allowed to be angry and hate people. He's like, why do you hate people? You were never nice to them, so why should they have ever been nice to you? Like, you haven't lost anything. This is your permanent state of being. For me, this was a massive change, and this is how I'm reacting to it. So you're welcome to leave and get out of here if you don't want to deal with it. But I have every right to feel the way that I feel and react the way that I react, which is a valid point, even though we might be getting a little bit tired of Timon's curmudgeonliness at this point in the play. It is a valid point. He went through a massive change of life just recently. And so Timon goes back to, trying to dig for food, and Apemantus is still there, and Timon keeps trying to get Apemantus to go away, and they're spitting insults back and forth at each other and that sort of thing. Apemantus actually finds another root or something to give to Timon for him to try to eat it. He's like, I would never eat anything that you gave me. And there's more of this back and forth, and we will get into even more of this back and forth when Timon has another monologue about it tomorrow. So we'll see you then for that. Mwah.